what my issue is with Matt Rife. Because if you talk about Matt Rife, from some people, they'll automatically accuse you of jealousy. And I really don't believe that's the case with Matt Rife. With me, at least, it's more curiosity. And I realized what I would like from Matt Rife and why I'm so fascinated by him. I would like him to be either 10% better or 10% worse. I think he's in this weird gray area where if he was a little bit worse, then great, we could make fun of him. But he's not so bad. He's not like Tom Myers, Dat Fan bad. We can't just take every single one of his TikToks and make fun of him the way we do with a lot of people. So he does no good for us. He doesn't add content to this show. So fuck him. But he's also not good enough to be as famous as he is. Like, the comparison I came up with is go watch 37 and... If you're looking for something to watch with your lady, a comedy special to kind of ease her into the stand-up world, go watch 37 and Single on Netflix with Jared Freed. It's a great date-type special. You know, the premises are nothing insane, not insanely original as far as topics or anything. Like, it's a lot of dating stuff and, you know, overeating and that sort of shit. But he's the kind of guy that, like, you can bring your girlfriend to if she's not totally into comedy, and she'll laugh and have a good time and be like, oh, he was great. Mm-hmm. That's what I want Matt Rife to be, to understand how he is charging $800 a ticket and selling out theaters a year and a half in advance.
He could bridge the gap between boyfriend and girlfriend.
Like Jared Freed, isn't the greatest comedian in the world to me, but if you told me he was selling out theaters all around the country, I could wrap my mind around it. I could grasp it. Matt Rife is doing nothing original. It's all the most bland, banal material. He's only 28. He kind of acts like he's this guy that deserves, you know, he's worked so long and so hard that he kind of finally got what he deserved. He's a kid. He's 28 years old, and none of his material is original or interesting. So I've tried to understand this obsession with Matt Rife, and I've done a lot of work to tell myself it's not just that he's handsome. That can't be the only reason he's this famous. But that's all I've been able to gather, is that that's why he's famous. So I listened to him on the Joe Rogan Experience. I got through the first hour and a half, and I got to tell you, again, we have some clips, and some Matt Rife's a little douchey, but I got to tell you, again, my focus is not even Matt Rife. This is how boring Matt Rife is that most of my criticisms are going to be about Joe Rogan in these clips.
So I'm glad you're saying this, because I had a different takeaway on Matt Rife from this, because I listened to about an hour. And I thought he was significantly more likable than when I went in.
Oh, he's not bad. That's what I'm saying. Like, I want to either hate him or not think about him. But he's in this weird area where I'm obsessed with him and I don't know why. Maybe I'm attracted to him. Maybe this is what he does to the ladies. Maybe I'm into him somehow.
Just questioning everything.
I don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah.
Down is up.
That could be it. That might be it.
Well, it all started with the reason we started talking about Matt Rife is because his special, his YouTube special that got millions and millions of views, started with a message, like he explains who he is, which is weird. And this is him, like, not on stage yet. He's just talking to the camera. He's explaining who he is and where you can find his other work, which is odd for the open of a special. And then he goes, all right, let's see who gets offended. As if to say, strap in, gang, because we're on the highway to the danger zone. You guys are going to want to buckle up. And then, like I said, it was very just kind of bland shit you've heard before, and then ends with crowd work. This first clip, I think, is that attitude that I'm talking about. That is probably why people are irked by this guy. I will say, I like that comedians, I think, have kind of learned from Dane Cook, where everyone just openly hated Dane Cook. Mm-hmm. I think now, like, you'll hear some Matt Rife jokes, but more or less, most comedians are like, hey, good for him, you know? The jealousy is less seething from comedians, which I do like.
I am glad you brought up the attitude from this first clip, because this is where in the episode I went, oh, here we fucking go. But he very quickly...
he rebounds. Yeah, but this is the attitude. Again, I'm trying to coach Matt Rife here. He needs me.
Yeah.
I'm getting him to a play. Knock this shit off. This is what I'd like you to, get this off the repertoire.
He very quickly remembers he's on with Joe Rogan.
Right.
Let's see.
Are you still in LA right now?
Technically, yeah.
Technically,
I mean, I'm home
road,
3 days
right?
a week, 3 days a month, maybe.
You're just constantly touring.
Yeah, it's a dream come true, man. Careful what you
Yeah.
wish for. But long time coming,
Well, I don't know.
That right there, I went, uh-oh.
You're 28, Matt. Don't act like that. Like I'm sure you've worked your ass off. I'm sure you've hustled for a long time. And he talks in this episode about how he's like, people think I just blew up on TikTok, but I was doing stand-up for a while. I'm sure that's all true. Long time coming. There's guys, fucking, Bill Burr didn't get successful until he was in his 40s.
Like mega stuff, yeah.
There's guys that work for years and years longer than you, and don't get their just due. Like people, I mention Joe List all the time. Big fan of his. I still don't think he gets enough respect that he deserves. And sometimes people will say like, "Hey, like a young comedian, you should check out his Joe List." And Joe List is always like, "I've literally been doing it for 25 years.
For
I
so
started in
long.
1998."
I've been doing this for so long.
So that's the dude. Like, can we hear that again? Just hey, about time. People finally recognized.
Let's see who gets offended. Ha ha. That's right here.
3 days a month, maybe.
You're just constantly touring.
Yeah, it's a dream come true, man. Careful what you
Yeah.
wish for. But long time coming,
Well, I don't know. It's not careful what you wish for. It's just you have to learn how to manage this new thing now.
Attaboy, Joe.
It's great though. It's not careful. It's fucking awesome. It's so much better than it not working out for you.
Oh, absolutely.
He rebounds quick. I like that he's like, absolutely. But a minute ago, he was like, that sucks.
That was the quick turnaround where he went, I'm on with Joe fucking Rogan right now.
Joe, can I tell you, all the money and pussy I've been reeling in has gotten exhausting.
You see this watch I have on?
That's what we're going to do 3 hours on today, right? Is how annoying it is to make money and fuck my entire audience is attractive 20-year-olds. So good for Rogan for being like, what the fuck are you talking about? But yeah, that really annoyed me. But I got to say, he did kind of rebound. There's some douchiness as we progress here.
This is him talking about no sleep.
Yeah, this is just a lie, right?
I think he's telling the truth, but exaggerating like he's on stage.
So here's my thing, and here's where my issue became more with Rogan as I was listening to this episode. Because I don't listen to a lot of people I don't know anymore on Rogan. Like when a name pops up,
Yeah.
that I'm like, okay, I'm not checking out a lot of new people on Rogan. And what I realized is that, and I saw this complaint about Rogan a couple times. I thought it was just people bitching about his show. Listening to this, I kind of felt it was accurate. Where Rogan used to be a curious guy. That's why I thought he was a great interviewer. Is because he would be curious about his guests' lives and whatever their careers were, what their path were to get where they are today. Joe was curious. He would ask about these things. Now the guests have to fit Joe Rogan's interests. So literally, like, guests are coming up with, they're like, hey, I like aliens. Can we talk about that? And so Joe has talked to these sleep experts before.
Mm-hmm.
And, and he talks about like the cold plunges and all that shit. He's very into that sort of thing. So I think that this is Matt firing off one of his bullets here. Maybe this will interest Joe, even though it's a clear lie.
Yeah, I don't think this is Joe not being interested. I mean, I will play it and then I'll say it.
I don't think I've even been in a REM sleep in 5 years, dude.
Oh, that doesn't make sense.
It's
You'd
not
be
good.
dead.
I
You'd be
feel dead, dude.
But you're not. You feel alive.
I've stayed awake for 9 straight days before.
What?
Yeah.
I don't even think that's possible.
I think the world record is like 11 or 13. Because I looked into it because I genuinely started to get like fearful for my own health.
You should have been. You just gave it a Google search. You didn't go to the fucking doctor.
Yeah, well, let me go to WebMD for this. Very serious.
That's my thing, is if you're awake for 9 days, you've got a lot of time to seek help.
But that's why I don't think Rogan was very interested or curious, because he just knows it's horseshit.
He kind of thought it was bullshit, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't blame him on that one.
Yeah, no, our first couple of clips are things with Matt Rife where I'm like, you know what, he's fine. And again, maybe this is jealousy because again, this is me where I would try and come up. Oh, I love Joe. I love elk. Are you into that at all?
You ever had that before?
Oh, you have? Have you talked about it? I must have missed that episode. I'm sorry. So I get the instinct he's on the biggest podcast in the world. He's trying to come up with things that Joe might be interested in. Is this the ghost hunting one?
Yes.
So I'll at least give Matt credit for this, where Rogan starts getting into politics. And this is again where I'm like, Joe's just talking about things he's interested in. Do you think Matt Rife wants to talk about Joe Biden with you? You know?
No, not at all.
And Matt smartly goes, yeah, I have no brain for this stuff. I have no interest in it. I don't pay attention to it at all. And Joe's like, well, let me dump my opinions on you.
Yeah.
And Matt literally goes like, I ghost hunt.
Is
that something you're going to be interested in? Can we talk about that?
This is where I started to like Matt Rife, because not to the extent he does, but I used to go to like allegedly haunted places just to kind of scare the shit out of myself when I was younger.
Well, this is what annoyed me is like he's talking about ghost hunting, but listen to his experience where I'm like, you're just wasting your time, Matt. What are you doing?
I will say I wasn't as
He'd already talked about ghost hunting. Now he's explaining one of the things.
scared as I've been in a lot of places we've been. There is some kind of solace to the house.
For those who have seen The Conjuring, he went to the Conjuring house. That's what he's talking about.
Gotcha.
But you get to know the history of it, and it does make sense that there'd be something here. I mean, it's on some ley lines of water underground. There was war spot there. There's apparently bodies buried on the property in the walls of the property structures and stuff. There's a lot of history that goes into it that just makes for like kind of the perfect storm for some creepy shit. But I didn't witness anything that was that insane. Some items moved, some cars rolled off of the children's dressers a couple of times on cue. And that's the one thing I do pride ourselves in these videos is so often we get absolutely nothing because we don't fake anything. So you only get to
badge of honor.
So many times we'll go to a place that is so notoriously haunted and we'll be there for 10 hours and get absolutely nothing. And it sucks. But that makes when something does happen that much more valuable. It's so much more impressive.
That's a weird point of pride to be like, sometimes we waste 8, 10, 12 hours at a place.
I kind of know what he's saying, because if you watch these shows on television, there's clearly a guy like behind the door throwing.
Well, I think they talked about after, like, the idea that Catching Bigfoot show is still on.
Yeah.
They've had no results. So that is a good point. But I like Matt's like, yeah, it's a point of pride where sometimes we waste an entire day looking at an empty house. Is that a ghost?
That was another one of my favorite parts that we don't have a clip for, is when he's like, yeah, you ever seen a Les Stroud show? And he's like, no. And Joe was like, fuck. It'd be a long one.
It's weird. I noticed I listened to Louis J. Gomez on with Rogan too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little bit, which is weird. You'd think they'd have more in common, but there's an element of like, Rogan only wants to talk about UFC, space, cancel culture, and workout methods or archery, like physical activity like that.
But Matt Rife could have just been like, I went to the moon last week, and Rogan would be like, no, you fucking didn't.
Hey, I'm jacked. Let's talk about being jacked comics. We've got that in common. That's the only thing we could talk about.
They do talk about recovery at one point, and I was like, here we go.
But that's so the thing with Matt Rife that I was interested to hear about, and this is why, like, on Why You Laughing, we always use clips from Marin, because I think Marin's a good interviewer in the sense that he's curious. He wants to know about guys' careers. Like, if he had Matt Rife on, there would be a lot of talking down to him, but but he'd be curious about how Matt got here and everything. Rogan, I'm like, you have this kid, he's on a rocket ship to the moon, and you're not asking him about him at all. You're talking about Joe Biden.
How he got there, nothing.
There was nothing. I mean, he's a TikTok star. They talk about TikTok a little bit, and Matt starts getting into like how much he hates social media. Now, you'd think that'd be an opening for Joe to be like, that's your entire living. What are you talking about? And they don't really. They don't talk about it. It's like, I thought Rogan did a bad job, and I think it's kind of because he's so rich now and has a lot of yes men around him. That's why I think it's great that the Protect Our Parks guys go in there, because literally Rogan will tell a story and Norman will snore in front of him. Like, I think he needs that a little bit to put himself in check.
Yeah, you don't remember that interview Dan Cook did when he was like, MySpace fucking sucks. I hate it.
It's like, really? That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a very weird job by Rogan, and it started to frustrate me, which I think is what we're getting into now more.
Yeah. Next we have Dismissive Rogan.
I mean, this is like I think it's more that Rogan was like grossed out by the video they were talking
Yeah,
about.
that was going to be my point.
But it's fun. It's just funny to hear Rogan like this dismissive to someone.
Like clearly he can do as we'll see. Rogan can do exactly what he does and not be a dick.
Yeah, he's making Matt feel uncomfortable about this. Joe's the one that brought this up.
Right.
Have you ever seen Chimp Nation on Netflix?
I don't think so.
You gotta watch it. It's wild. Because what's up?
A picture of the lady after the
Oh,
attack.
don't show me.
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Don't show me it.
Can I see it?
Okay.
Oh fuck! I'm sorry.
I won't show
It's okay. Just put it on the screen. He can look at it. I don't want to see it.
He's treating him like an asshole now.
Kid's curious about things you're into, and you're like, all right.
There are moments where you got a sort of a Mr. Rogan vibe from Matt. Like you realize he's a 28-year-old on with the biggest podcaster the biggest interviewer in the world, really.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and Rogan's like, "No, let him watch it, whatever."
Yeah. Throughout this whole interview, he actually called him dad a few times by accident.
So yeah, I started to like Matt a little bit. Someone messaged me and was like, "Hey man, I don't know if it's just me, but I don't know what it is about this Matt Rife guy. Like I can't bring myself to like him." He's like, I was listening to him on Rogan. I don't.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know, I don't. I'm the same way, but I kind of want to like him. He's not crazy unlikable. That's the thing about him. Is he's not. I wish he was a little more hateable, and he isn't.
Hoping he was like another Gurjio.
Yes, I want Gurjio to come back so badly.
He's gone. We're never
I don't know what the
gonna
hell
see it.
happened to him. Because I heard Dan Soder talking about this recently, the man who discovered Pete Gurjio, and he said that Gurjio openly like owns that he does that.
That's new.
Where people ask him and say like, "Hey," they bring up like, "Hey, is that like laugh track shit in your TikToks?" And he's like, "That's the game, man. That's what you got to do now." And Soder's like, "No, you don't." But
I want to know how many takes had like a toilet flushing, and he was like, "Fuck." You have to like, shoot it again.
well, I always said this about Gurjio, that my favorite part is imagining when he like does the like look at the crowd. just to be a fly on the wall in the room where there actually is no laughter.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, I mean, am I right, guys? Like what? Just silence.
He's got his teddies from when he was young, just sitting on chairs.
Yeah. So like I said, Matt Rife wasn't crazy unlikable. I kind of wanted him to be. And I'll admit, maybe we started out with this segment so I could put Matt Rife and Joe Rogan in the title of this episode. Sue me. I'm a businessman. But it did start to like turn me on just being annoyed with Joe Rogan. I became a Reddit commenter of Joe Rogan's as I was listening to this. And I think is this our last clip?
Yep.
This is it's again him not getting the joke. This was actually not a terrible joke by Matt Rife. But it's Rogan just like, I don't know if it's that he doesn't pay attention. He's so focused on like what he wants to get into that he's just not paying attention to jokes. I don't know what it is, but
I wonder if it's like he needs to be so careful about what comes out of his mouth because it might make like top news for 3 days.
maybe, but he's kind of always been like that. And the one I always reference when we talk about this is Jim Norton, where I remember Norton as an interviewer would do that shit. Like when younger comedians come in, like I remember when Mark Normand and Sam Morril used to talk about this, but I specifically remember it with Nick Mullen, where Mullen would be like fucking around and just say something absurd, and Norton would be like, "Really? What do you mean by that?"
Yes.
And
Yes.
Mullen's like, I don't know. I was kidding. Sorry."
Yes. Rogan is king of that.
Yeah.
The thing about hippos is it's one of those other animals that for whatever reason, when we anthropomorphize, when we give them like human characteristics, we make them sweet. Hungry hippo.
Yeah.
Like polar bears. Like it's Coca-Cola.
No.
Oh,
Absolutely.
by the way, can I say, just as a premise, not true. He's about to launch into a bit about how like we don't know bears are dangerous.
Yeah, we're gonna go pet them.
Coca-Cola.
No, absolutely
Klondike
not.
bars.
So aggressive.
They're terrifying.
No,
We
fuck
do
all
that with so many like terrifying animals. Fucking Yogi Bear. We turned one of the scariest animals in the forest.
Frosted
Your
Flakes.
buddy. Hey, boo boo.
Yeah.
Let's get
Working on material on Matt Rife.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Is this anything, Matt?
Will the girls like this?
Dude, Yogi Bear was like this sweetheart. And how many people grew up thinking bears were their friends because of that stupid shit? And then these dummies, you go out in the woods and you're like, oh no.
Mauled to death.
People used to look at bears for what they are. And then teddy bears came around.
Hold on. This is when you. I don't know if Joe's lost touch a little bit or what he's doing. He thinks too much about things. This is a time where people looked at bears for what they were.
Just bears.
What a ridiculous statement. Like, we've lost touch with what bears are. Joe's talking like at a rapid clip. People are like, hello, wild bear.
This is.
You're my friend.
I wish you didn't bring up him working out material on Matt Rife because now I'm disgusted.
Well, here's the thing, too. Joe is like running bits by Matt. God forbid Matt try to get a joke in.
You won't let him talk.
And then teddy bears came around. And then when they started giving people teddy bears, then they started like thinking that like bears are your little friends.
Yeah.
And then
Build-A-Bear is responsible for a lot of deaths.
oh,
People don't talk about that enough.
I don't think Build-A-Bear is responsible.
You know, Joe? First of all, not a bad joke by Matt Rife, and I think he was even going for like a Bilderberg thing.
He could have, even if it was just the teddy bears.
I think that was kind of the reference he was making, but even if it's just the teddy bears, it's still funny. Like, for this conversation, that was funny. And listen to Joe. He's just like, no, Matt, we're going to want to fact. Jamie, pull that up.
Yeah. He's like,
Build-A-Bear, how many deaths is Build-A-Bear responsible for?
It's like, teddy bears and teddy grams, they're humanizing bears. And yeah, Build-A-Bear's responsible for a lot of deaths.
Whoa. That's too far, Matt. Hey, we're all having a good time, but Jesus.
Watch it, dude. This is
Spotify's going to have to come up with a new color notification to put on their episodes.
Yeah, red for blood because of Build-A-Bear.
Build-A-Bear is responsible for a lot of deaths.
Oh,
People don't talk about that enough.
I don't think Build-A-Bear is responsible, but the teddy bear is. The Build-A-Bear. By the time Build-A-Bear came, it was already Disney movies. It was already too late.
Yeah.
It was already too late.
That was ridiculous, Matt.
Matt Rife's
Fucking idiot.
Matt Rife's even like, all right, you're not what I thought you were.
It was too late. The wildness of Joe to say, no, Matt, it was not Build-A-Bear. Teddy bears, however, that'll grant you. Now we're getting somewhere interesting. Yes, if you want to say teddy bears are responsible, sure, I'm not going to have you besmirch Build-A-Bear, but...
That was the end of it.
Matt's like, oh, yeah, no, you're right, I guess.
Yeah, should I leave? You can continue this by yourself.
I think you can tell. I've made this up in my mind just when I look at the time of an episode. If I see less than 3 hours, I always think, oh, I guess Joe wasn't having fun today.
And before
Joe gets bored.
Yeah, and before you'd be like, wow, they really rifled through some stuff.
Right.
And now you're like, he didn't like them. The only one I saw that was under 3 hours recently was Bill Maher, and that was me going, Bill Maher just got bored.
But yeah, that's the strange. That's the I think the main issue with Rogan now is he's become like the character of Rogan a little too much. Mm-hmm. Where for a while I used to hate when people complained about that. People would say like, "Oh, he talks about UFC all the time," or he talks about DMT. It's like, well, those are things he's interested in. Who gives a shit? But now when I listen to an interview with a guy that could have been an interesting conversation, and you're literally just you're talking about bears not being scary enough in the media.
Right. So I don't know if it was on this show, or if I heard it on a different show, but someone was talking about if you hear Joe Rogan bring up chimpanzees, the interview's done.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know.
That's what they were talking about in the last clip.
That's what they talked about in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize it was that quick.
Yeah. So that's when I went, uh-oh. Like, because now that's stuck in my brain, and I'm like, oh, if they go animal maulings, the interview's toast.
He's like, you're a TikTok kid, right, Matt? This could be a 3-minute episode. We just get out of here.
Yeah. We'll put this on your TikTok. It'll probably get more views.
The other thing I just did want to mention before we move on from Rogan is that I before when Craig played me the clip before the show, I said, "Why does it sound like shit?" And Craig immediately throws Jamie Vernon under the bus.
Yeah. All I did was record it.
So you hear that, Jamie? We're coming for you.
Yeah, it's always very gain
It's
heavy.
your fault.
It's gain heavy.
All right, where to next?
What are you thinking?